Hello there, and welcome to another edition of Talk of the Town, brought to you by National Media Services and part of Royal Examiner. I'm delighted to welcome in today Bébhinn, one of our youngest and most active members of Town of Front Royal Council. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm happy to have you in because you have some important news to share with the constituents of Town Front Royal.
That's right. Yeah, I'm very happy that you guys invited me in here. I'm happy to be here. My news is that I will be resigning from Town Council this summer. July 1st will be the official date. And it's a sad thing to announce, but the reason is a happy one, and the reason is that I'm getting married in June, and so I'll be moving out of the community, so I'll have to resign my seat due to that.
Well, that's an exciting announcement for you, and congratulations
Thank
to you.
you.
We're excited to hear that news.
Thank you.
But sad to hear that you'll be moving out of the community. Will you be
Yes.
moving across the country or nearby?
No, I'll be close by. I'll be about an hour away up in Maryland. I'm hoping to still have a lot of ties to the community. My parents still live here, and so I'll definitely be back.
Now, what about for the many students? Of course, for folks who don't know, you're a music teacher.
Yes, I have a good number of violin students. I have about 40 students right now, and I teach on Main Street. I have a little studio on Main Street. So of course, they're all wondering what's going to happen. So with them, I've been in touch with them, and my plan is to commute back to Front Royal at least for about a year, because I don't want to leave all of them, without a teacher. It's not a bad drive. I've never been a commuter, I've always worked, 2 minutes from my house, so it's been wonderful, but definitely to make that work for them, that's my plan, for the next year.
Yeah, teachers and music students, they have a very close connection.
Yes.
And I'm sure they'll miss you, and it'll be nice to give them some time to transition, maybe find another teacher.
Yes, yeah. My hope is that I can find someone that can sort of take over for me. When I started taking lessons, I was 5 years old. I was living here, and my dad had to drive me to Winchester every week. Which I'm very grateful for. So I think it's great that I've been able to bring that here to Front Royal, that kids in Front Royal have been able to have somebody right in their own community. So I'm hoping to find somebody that can take over for me. But it is a special relationship, like you said. I mean, some of my students I've had for 8 years or so. And to see somebody once a week for that many years, you really get to know the person and to see them grow up. And so,
well, let's talk about that for a minute. So you were a student of the Suzuki method?
yes.
And you went to Shenandoah?
Yes. So I actually sort of came full circle. When I was 5, I was going up to Shenandoah to take lessons from a graduate student there. And she was actually a cellist, but she also played the violin, and there was such a high demand for violin lessons that she taught cello and violin. And I actually had to go through a transition when I was about 11. She moved away. She had to move to Texas. A similar situation. She got married. Her husband had a job offer there. So that was rough. So I know what that's like. And then, yes, for my master's degree, I went to Shenandoah. So I was studying in the same building where I had started my lessons, 20 years earlier. So it was a very fun time for me. But Shenandoah has done a lot for me, and I'm very grateful that they're so close by.
And they have a great music program, as you know, because you started out as a young student, and
Yes.
then you graduated, you did your graduate program there.
Yes.
So I'm sure we'll find someone to slip into your shoes, and the circle will continue.
Yes.
Well, speaking about this community that you love so much, you came here when you were 4 years old.
Yes.
Grew up to run for town council.
Yes.
You were elected in 2014, which means you began serving 2015. Let's talk about your time there and what you
Sure.
feel. Well, let's talk about why you ran. You're pretty young to be a town council person, and a lot of people stood up and took notice when you announced your candidacy.
Well, I always tell people, I'm sort of an impulsive person. And the reason I decided to run was I was mad.
Well, that could be a good reason.
Yeah, that's what people say. You're either mad about something or you're in it for some other reasons. But, I had read something in the paper. It was in late January, I think, or early February of 2014. It was the afternoon town hall swap. I read on a Tuesday morning they had voted the night before, and I had never been to a town council meeting before. I read about it in the paper, but I was working. I had all these other things going on, and but I read about it in the paper, and I said, well, if they're going to be making decisions like this, I could do a better job than that. So I marched right down to the registrar's office and I said, I want to run for town council. And of course they were like, okay, well, here's your forms. You got to get all these signatures. And so I was ready to go,
That's how you do it.
I got all my signatures, and then I thought, well, gosh, now I really got to do this.
It's official. I'm still mad and I'm getting signatures.
Exactly.
So, and that's a lesson for folks who may be interested in running.
Definitely.
Because, of course, with when you leave, there will be an appointment.
Definitely.
But when election time rolls around, that is how folks decide to run. They decide to run for a reason. They think they can do a better job.
And that's what gives me a lot of hope, is that I've met so many people in town, more than I had ever met before, and I know that we have tons of people in this town who could do an amazing job, whether it's on town council or some other, a planning commission or anything else. There's tons of areas where people can get involved, and I know we have a lot of really capable, wonderful people in town. So I am sad to be leaving the town council, but I know that the town will be in good hands.
You have, it appears to me that you've always tried to educate yourself about the issues. You've asked a lot of questions. For folks who don't know, who don't watch the meetings or don't go to them, you really do your homework. You read the information. You make phone calls if you need to. You really do your homework. And I think a lot of people respect you for that, but you also have taken some criticism for that.
Yeah, I try to do as much homework, as you say, as I can, and most of that stems from the fact that a lot of these issues I'm ignorant on, especially when I first started. There was so much information at first, just getting to know how the town works, all these things that I don't know anything about, sewer systems and everything like that. So, it does take a lot of work to really be able to make an informed decision. But yeah, there is the flip side to that. Some people, they get upset if you ask too many questions, or might think, you're just sort of stalling the system, making things harder than they need to be. But I do think questions are important because they say there's no such thing as a stupid question. I feel like I've asked a lot of stupid questions over my 2 years, but I might have a lot of voters that are wondering the same thing. And if I don't ask it for them, who's going to ask it? So yes, I think sometimes, and I think some of that is brought on by the fact that there are a lot of people that know a lot more about these things than I do, so they might get impatient, or frustrated. Might seem to be that I'm slowing things down, but I think it is important for the public to have all the answers that they need, and for the council who's voting on issues to have all the answers that they need to be able to vote the way they need to.
Well, I have seen letters to the editor in our paper, the Royal Examiner, Northern Virginia Daily, other newspapers, and folks do say, good for Bébhinn for asking questions, because it's something I wanted to know, but I wasn't at the meeting.
Sure.
So I'm sure you have people who thank you, and also people who say, okay, enough already. But what advice would you give to someone who hadn't run before, but was maybe thinking about it?
I would say, just to remember the reason why you want to run, just to remember, we're all here to help Front Royal. We're all here to bring the community up, lift everybody up. And of course there's different styles, there's different ways of going about that. But sometimes when you get to work, you're going door to door, you're excuse me, trying to raise money, things like that, you can lose sight of, why am I doing all of this, And I think the most important thing is just to remember we're doing it for the community, for the town, for the people that live here, and that's the main goal. That's the main reason why we're all pitching in with our time and our talents, is to help Front Royal become a better place for all of us.
2 questions before we go. Number 1, would you do it again?
Yes, I think I would. I don't know that I will do it again in the future, but if I went back in time and it was February of 2014, I think I would do it again. I'm glad that I did it. And I did have every intention of finishing out a 4-year term. I am sad to have to leave in the middle. You know, there have been frustrations along the way, but it's definitely, it's been a worthwhile experience, and I do hope that the town is better for me having served for the 2.5 years. But you know, becoming a wife and hopefully a mother is something that I've always felt called to do. So, you know, I'm excited about the future. And I'm also excited to see Front Royal grow. You know, I'll be sort of watching from a distance, but I am excited for what's in store because I think we are on the right track.
And being that you feel the town is on the right track, what do you think is the greatest contribution that you made, or the project that you're most proud of during your time on council?
Well, you know, it's funny you would ask that because I don't feel like I've really accomplished much. You know, I voted on countless issues. I feel like I've stayed true to what I promised people, that I would stick with my original purpose was to keep government limited, to keep government transparent, to be a voice for the people, common sense. And so I do feel like I've accomplished staying with that I've stuck true to what I promised when I ran. But you know, a lot of the projects that have come to fruition over the past 2.5 years, that's been the work of you know, councils before me or the staff. You know, so I feel like I've had a hand in a lot of different things. You know, I'm really proud that the solar farm is going to be opening up soon. Yes. But again, I had really nothing to do with that. I voted on the last couple years of things that needed to be approved for that, but all the work for that was done by you know, the staff and previous councils. And so that's something I'm very proud of, but you know, I can't really take credit for that. But I am excited to see that happening.
Well, I think it is safe to say that you did very much stick to your principles of doing the research and finding out what was going on as far as with the projects. You always did ask the questions that needed to be asked, and you educated yourself, and that's what's really important, because you need to be educated to make the decisions.
Definitely.
And it's also good for the public to be educated.
Definitely.
And on a final note, the very project that got you started was the Afton Inn, and it's still sitting there on the corner, and we're still not sure what's going on.
You're right, and that's been a big frustration of mine. Excuse me, for the past 3 years now, ever since the swap was approved. And you know, I hoped that I was wrong about that. I hoped that everyone who said, oh, this is going to be wonderful for Front Royal, someone will swoop in and snatch this up, it'll be turned around, it'll be wonderful. I hoped that they were right. And I still hope that at some point they will be right, but we can see that maybe it wasn't the best decision. We have 3 years of hindsight now, and it's a problem. It's still a huge problem that we're dealing with today. And you know, I don't know what the solution is, but hopefully moving forward we can turn something around.
Well, hopefully one day in future when you come back to visit your parents, maybe you'll be a parent by then.
Maybe.
You can show your kids the famous Afton Inn.
Maybe so.
Thank you so much for coming in to visit. Congratulations on your upcoming nuptials. And
thank you.
We look forward to seeing you from time to time.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Take care. That wraps up this edition of Talk of the Town. We congratulate Bébhinn and her fiance, and we'll make sure to check back in with her before she heads out of town in July.